welcome to the Coaches Show. I'm your host, Darrin Joins, Williamson County Schools Athletic Director, and today we are talking Nolensville basketball. We're going to start off by talking to the girls' head coach for Nolensville, Mr. Chris Ladd. Coach Ladd, thank you for being here.
Glad to be here.
Coach, big win on Tuesday night over Forest, 39-35. That moves your record to 7-2 in district play, which should end up securing you the number one seed in the tournament. Some faces have changed, but your team keeps on being a factor in that league.
Yeah, I think mathematically we have secured first place just with one game left to play. Yeah, I'm really proud of our girls this year. You know, we lost 5 really good seniors last year, and 3 were starters. And of course, Cayman and Zoe are back, and they've really led us this year. But I'm really proud of the other girls that are around them. That, you know, they got some time last year, but not a lot of significant minutes. And this year they're really having to step in and do a good job. And it's been a little different, looked a little different at times. But you know, like you said, we've kept it rolling, and I think this is the 3rd year in a row we've finished first for the season in our district. So I'm really proud of them for doing that.
Well, I'm sure the folks in your league will be more than happy to say goodbye when you leave the district at the end of this year, which we'll talk about here in just a minute. Coach, not to bring up any bad memories, but you make it all the way to the state semis last year, which is obviously a good memory. But then COVID-19 takes place. You add to that, you lose some significant players from that team who I know you had this great relationship with from there at the beginning of the school. You do bring some pieces back that you talked about, but with the summer not being able to really do anything, the fall was a little goofy too. Was it hard to get over all of that disappointment, losing those seniors and getting started this year?
It was definitely hard getting started. I think, you know, more due to the COVID stuff than anything. You know, it's always, everywhere we go, you know, somebody says, hey, you know, you guys had a great year last year. And, you know, it sitting in quarantine there through March and April and just really stewing over that. I think at least I had a chance to kind of get over all that, and just with all that was going on, you know, we realized that we were just a small piece of, you know, what was happening worldwide. And once we kind of hit the school year, we haven't really talked about that at all. I mean, we've just been moving forward, and this is a new team, and you guys can do great things. And like I said, they just did. You know, I mean, that was one of our goals, was let's go win the district again. And so that made me really proud for them to be able to do that again. And, you know, hopefully we're just going to keep moving forward with it. I mean, this is a different group in a different year, and you know, it's still out there. Obviously, hopefully we'll get to finish the season and not have something happen again. But you know, it was tough. It was tough. And this year, as you know, with all the coaches, it's been a tough thing trying to navigate through all the regulations and you know, people don't realize that don't coach basketball. I know you do, because you're an old basketball coach, but that summertime is so important for getting your kids together and finding your chemistry, find out what you can do well and what you don't need to do, and you know, how you're going to defend people. And we didn't have that time. Nobody did. So we really, in the fall, when we started practice, that was the first time we could really kind of start to learn those things about ourselves.
Yeah, definitely a challenge, Coach, with a team that maybe doesn't have a real veteran group coming back, which you mentioned you obviously lost a lot. Let's talk about your season this year, Coach. 7-2 in the league, 14-6 overall. Winners, I believe, of 6 of your last 7. The only hiccup in that stretch last week against Community. And taking a look at your schedule, I've always respected how you've done this. You do a good job with games outside the league. You could have probably set your schedule up and be 17-3. But I think, you know, as a veteran coach, and I think it says a lot about how you play in the postseason, you play the likes of Brentwood and Summit and Ravenwood. It's only going to make your team better. So let's talk about that a little bit. Is it as much about scheduling WCS teams, scheduling tough games, or is it really both?
It's really both, because those WCS teams are tough games, you know, so we want to play them, and obviously we will next year. We'll be excited to be in the district with them. But we also want to play them because they're tough teams. And, um, you know, I'm a veteran guy, just like you are. And those wins early on that, that you get easily really don't mean much except a dash in the win column. If you push yourself and you make your kids play tough competition, I think that gets you better. If you're willing to take some L's, early on, I think it pays off in the postseason. And that's just kind of the approach I've always taken is let's try to, we don't want to have a killer schedule and just, get destroyed every game, but we want to play some tough teams and put ourselves in some spots where we can learn about ourselves.
Coach, talking about those WCS teams, and you mentioned this as well. Next year, going to 4 classes in basketball, you'll be in a new league. You're probably a little more used to it than the others in terms of the league size. You're in a 16 league right now. The other WCS teams going from 9 teams down to 5 teams. You got Independent, Summit, Ravenwood, Columbia. Thoughts about that league and that change?
Yeah, well, like I said, we're excited to be with the WCS teams. We throw Columbia in the mix, who's had a really good year this year. So I really don't know much about them. I'm going to have to, kind of do my research here as we move into the league. But obviously, we know Summit, we know Independence, we know Ravenwood, and so I'm really familiar with them. That's going to be a tough little district there. But like I said, we're excited to get into it, and what we're going to find, what most of these guys in WCS are going to find, you're going to have a lot of room to schedule outside the calendar. So hopefully we'll continue to play each other, even though we're in different districts, and that'll kind of help with scheduling as well. But it's going to be interesting. I'm kind of excited to get to it.
Coach, talking about uh, the players you lost. I mean, you mentioned them, those seniors that you lost last year in the summer and the fall not really being there. But you did return Zoe Pillar, Cayman Ladd, pretty good players to build around. So in a typical year, you're probably feeling pretty good. Hey, we've got the summer to talk about it. We got the fall to work on it. But even though you had those 2 pieces back, still was a challenge.
Yeah, it was. And I want to I gave a lot of credit to the girls that are around those 2, but those 2 as well have they've really evolved their game. Zoe has really developed more of a face-up game, and started to shoot outside a little more instead of just pounding the post because she's getting double and triple teamed every night. So we've really tried to face her up more and keep her really involved in the offense. And then Cayman, who was just she could spot up in the corner and wait for the ball to come to her. Now she's handling the ball, she's bringing it down the court, she's having to attack off the dribble. So she's still shooting a great percentage from the 3, but she's really had to do a lot of different things. We put her in the post a little bit. So I'm really proud of those 2 because they've had to evolve and really lead in a different way. And, I know they're both going on to play next year, and I think that's really going to help them at the next level as well.
Coach, also, when you look at your box scores and your stat lines, another name that keeps popping up for you is Chloe Earls. Talk about her play.
Yeah, I'm really, really proud of her too. Chloe has, she was one of those that got some time last year, but, this year we really needed her to be that girl who could knock down that 3 from the outside, kind of be that spot up shooter. And she's done that this year. She's kind of been the 3rd option, so to speak, for us when they're helping in the paint on Zoe and they're worried about Cayman. She's usually one that's open and she can knock down that 3. And she's also done a pretty good job defensively for us. We've kind of put her on some tough defensive assignments. So she's one that's really stepped up. She's a junior, and really proud of her.
What about those other role players that have been a big factor for you as well, Coach?
Yeah, we start another post player, Sarah Grubesic. She's another junior, and again got a little bit of time last year, but she stepped into kind of another post role and plays off of Zoe. We get a little high-low with her, and Sarah Brewer and J.R. Moyer have come in and kind of run the point. They kind of shared the point position, which they're sophomores. So you know how that is when you have sophomores trying to run your team out there. And they've done a really good job. And then a couple seniors, Alexis Hall, that plays minutes here and there last year and has has stepped in and kind of continue to fill that role this year. And then Avery Patton is one that Coach Patton is one of my assistants. She had always played in middle school. She's kind of a softball stud. Decided she wanted to play this year, so she's been a pleasant surprise to have her out there. And so we've kind of just pieced it together with with what we've got. Paige Dickinson's another one that's played a little bit in the post. So those other girls, they're accepting their role and they're just doing what they need to do.
Coach, we talked about if the season ended today, you'll be the number one seed. You move on to the region since that number one seed puts you in the semifinals. And it looks like, I mean, there's some things could happen, but you're going to be on a crash course to play Murfreesboro Central again, who you split with them during the regular season, both of those games, 2-point games. So talk about that potential matchup.
Yeah, you know this. Basketball is a game of matchups, right? I mean, Magnet is. They seem to not have a lot of struggles with other teams. When we play them, it's a big struggle. So we have a 2-point win and a 2-point loss to them, and I think it's just the way we match up with them. They've got a really good, solid starting five that makes it tough. They're tough to guard, and a couple of good players that are young and sort of getting better as the year's gone on. So that's one that we really got to look at and be ready for sure. Because like you said, it looks like that may be who we end up playing in the first round.
Coach, you're at Marshall County tonight for the final district game, and then it's tournament time. What does your team, in your opinion, need to do or continue to do to be successful and make another postseason run?
Yeah, we just want to keep it going. Marshall, we know is gonna be a handful. They always are. They're kind of a district foe. We got that one more game before we hit the tournament stretch, and this time of year, Coach, it's just about trying to play your best. And we've kind of, here a little bit, we've cooled off a little bit. So I really love to see us go down to Marshall and play well, get a good win, kind of springboard us into the next week and into tournament time, and get a couple good practices under our belt and just let it go.
Coach, tell us a little bit more about your region. Obviously, you're going to qualify for the region because you are the number one seed, but talk about that other district a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm sure but Fairview looks like they've won the other district. They've had a really good year. We've played them twice this year, so we know a little bit about them. But Coach McGowan does a great job over there with them, and looks like them in Creekwood and Stewart County are kind of the top three. So we'll see what happens. I don't like to worry about that too much until that time comes, but I'm definitely kind of keeping my eyes on what's going on over there. But I really feel like the region as well as the district is wide open for anybody. So it's going to be a real interesting year, tournament time this year.
Coach, you talked about, it seems like Marshall County community, those have been those teams that maybe have been big rivals for you. Obviously, Murfreesboro Central at times as well. But as you move into this other league, something I've thought about is your rivalry with Ravenwood, say that fast 3 times, right? It has been pretty good, but I feel like the ante's going to get upped a little bit when you play each other and it's a league game. Agreed?
I would agree, and I'm looking forward to that. I just remember back when I was at Summit and we would play Independence and how packed that gym would get and how much of a great environment that is for the kids and, like Franklin and Centennial. And so we haven't really had that kind of a rival game. And, I can see that Ravenwood game maybe turn into that. I know Brentwood's their big rival, but we're right here in each other's backyard. So hopefully we can kind of turn that into a big deal. And it's just such a fun time for the kids, the players, the fans, everybody, when you can get that rivalry.
And Mr. Producer, it's rivalry. I want to make sure you have confidence in me that I can say that word. Coach, I know you're busy. Appreciate you being here. Good luck tonight and good luck moving forward.
Thank you, sir.
We'll be right back to talk to head boys coach Todd Babington right after this message.
Do you know the most important lesson you can teach your kids about playing sports is concussion signs and symptoms? After a hit to the head, if they have any concussion signs like blurred vision or headache, they need to stay out of play until they're checked by a healthcare professional. Play safe when it comes to concussion. In doubt, sit them out. To learn more, go to cdc.gov/concussion. This is the other thing you can teach them. Comes in handy.
Welcome back to the Coaches Show. We're now joined by first-year head coach at Nolensville High School, Coach Todd Babington. Coach, appreciate you being here.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
Coach, what a way to start your head coaching career there at Nolensville in this crazy time we are living in. What challenges this must have been and has been this year?
Yeah, we started off playing some really, really good basketball. There was so many question marks at the start of this year, whether we were going to get to play, whether we weren't, what was going to happen if someone tested positive, what was going to happen if another team tested positive. There was so many things that we were dealing with. Well, we didn't have to deal with any of those really at the start of the year. And practice wasn't affected, games weren't affected. And we were playing some pretty good basketball. Then we kind of, in the middle of the year, I think we started dealing with a lot of things that other teams were dealing with at the beginning of the year. And so it has been a challenge. I'm talking about, the day of a game, a kid getting quarantined. We're getting on the bus, a kid getting quarantined. The night before a practice or before a game, a kid getting quarantined after practice. So it is definitely tested my wits and tested my patience. But we've kind of come up with a motto this year, and that is we're going to play a game no matter what, whether our whole starting five gets quarantined or injured or whatever it is. We're going to roll the ball out and we're going to play a game, and we've done that. And we've kind of developed the no excuses. We're not making any excuses, but it has been challenging. I will say that.
Coach, I love that. Control what you control kind of demeanor.
Yep.
I saw a quote, Coach, and I was thinking about you a little bit, not necessarily the record, but getting started. C.M. Newton had a famous quote that you haven't coached until you've been 3 and 21. I had the unfortunate experience of my first year coaching. The record was 3 and 21. So I can relate to that quote, but I think maybe we could even add to that quote for you. You haven't coached until you've been 3 and 21 or been a first year head coach going through COVID.
Yeah. Well, I actually have been right around that 3 and 21 mark. My first year coaching girls up at Springfield, we didn't have a great record, but it was still a lot of fun, and I still enjoy it. And it, like I said, the COVID part of it has definitely thrown me for a loop, and it has been challenging. I can't stress that enough, but we've had some really good support around us. My assistant coaches, they've kept me on the ledge, so to say, and we've been working through it, and I am proud of our team. I am proud of our guys, and proud of kind of where we're going.
Coach, you talked about that experience at Springfield High School. This could be the first time that some of our audience out there is getting a chance to learn more about you. Talk about your journey getting to Nolensville High School. Obviously, you were an assistant coach there at Nolensville previously,
Yep.
But talk about your background a little bit.
Sure. So out of college, I played basketball at Austin Peay State University, and then out of college, I went to be a grad assistant there. Decided that college coaching was not anything that I was interested in. Didn't want to do it. I was living up in Clarksville still. I was working. I was coaching some AAU high school teams, and I did go to school to be a teacher, and but I wasn't doing that. And I kind of got to the point, and I said, if I don't become a teacher and a coach right now, I'm never going to, and I'm never going to decide if that's what I want to do. So I ended up getting on staff as an assistant girls coach at Sycamore High School. Did that for a year. And then I got the head job at Springfield High School, which I was there up until the start of last year. There was an opportunity to be an assistant down here at Nolensville High School. It was with boys, which I've kind of still always worked with the boys, even at Springfield, with training kids, whatever it is. I've always still kind of worked with the boys. But it was something that I hadn't done at the high school level. This opportunity opened up. I jumped on it. And then the head coach last year, Coach Segal, he ended up leaving, and I ended up being fortunate enough to get the job. So here we are. It's been kind of a crazy loop to get to where I'm at right now, but I really enjoy being here at Nolensville High School. It's down the road from my house, and this is kind of home for me. So.
Well, outside looking in, it's looked like maybe a lot more smooth transition than maybe even you realize. Let's talk about your season a little bit, Coach. 5-4 in the league, 12-9 overall. Big win over Forest on Tuesday night, 53-48, after a couple of tough back-to-back 4-point losses, one of which was in overtime to Murfreesboro Central Magnet and Community. Had to be great to get back on the winning side of things and to build that confidence back up for your team.
Yeah. Tuesday night we were actually down again. We started off the game really well, and we were down again going into the fourth quarter, but we kind of put the shackles on defense, and we played some really good defense down the stretch. They actually didn't have a bucket in the fourth quarter. They had 4 free throws. So we definitely stepped it up on the defensive end. But yeah, it's, I talked about at the beginning of the year how we weren't really affected by it. That the biggest piece that has been affected by us, and we've got 4 losses in district by a combined of 13 points, and one of those was in overtime. The biggest thing that's been affected by us is just practice time right now, and it was going on for about a month straight where I was looking back going, I get why we're struggling with some of these games, because we just haven't been able to practice that much, and guys that are playing significant roles have been out or haven't been practicing, and it's been one after the other. So, finally within this past week, which is good leading up to tournament time, we've actually had a steady string of practices. We've had a steady string of being able to get into the weight room and being able to build on some things that I think we felt at the beginning of the year to hopefully put us over the edge and get ready for tournament time.
Coach, and I took a look at your schedule, and probably as much as any team in the area, you've really played a WCS schedule. Games against Brentwood and Centennial and Fairview and Franklin and Page and Ravenwood and Summit. So really more than any, or I guess I'd say either of the schools that aren't in the AAA district, talking yourself and talking Fairview, you guys really played a WCS schedule. So maybe that's caused you to have a few more losses, but it certainly has made your team better. Yeah,
it really has. I mean, you look at our schedule, and we've played every team in Williamson County. We had a tournament canceled, so we were able to pick up Franklin a couple times. We had another tournament that got canceled early in the year, so Coach Fay and I, we got something scheduled, so we got to play Summit. And yeah, there's some really good teams. Looking forward to the district next year. It's going to be a gauntlet, especially because there's a lot of good basketball programs in Williamson County, and we've done good. We've been in every game at one point or another. Going into the second, third quarter, we've had opportunities, and looking back on some of those, I think it has made us a better team, because those are some really, really good basketball teams that I think have a good chance of going pretty far in the tournament as well.
No doubt about that, Coach. Let's talk about your players now. Really, if you look at big-time contributors, Nathan Fouch was really the only person that wasn't coming back. You had quite a bit of experience, but what's a little bit tricky about that, because I think somebody could look at it and go, well, practice has been uneven, but at least you have guys that were coming back. But the reality of it is, as the head coach, you're going to do things a little bit differently than Coach DeGaulle did it. Your scheme might be a little different. Your demeanor is going to be different. So that timeout, even though you've had those returning players, still is a challenge.
Yeah, and that's really what we were dealing with at the start of the year. I mean, I look back on this back in the summer, when we were given the opportunity to get back into the gym, it was, we were back in the gym, but there was a lot of protocols that we were following. There was a lot of guidelines. And so we weren't allowed to really build on some of the chemistry that we had last year. it was a lot of skill work that we were doing. That's really all that we could do. Now we did build upon that as much as we could. And when some of the restrictions were lifted and we got back into doing some more 5-on-5 things, that was really not until I guess November, really the start of practice is when we were able to do that. So you're right. We didn't have a summer to kind of implement my little tweaks, my little changes that every coach has, in a transition. Every coach is going to have that. So yeah, we really haven't had that. And then on top of the COVID year, that's been the biggest piece that's been difficult is, you try to build up to this point and you kind of schedule your practices. Well, I haven't known what this was going to be like. So trying to figure that out in the middle of the year, it was very challenging. It was very challenging.
Coach, your first year, again, as head coach there at Nolensville, had a head coaching stint before that you talked about there at Springfield, but what are you learning about yourself as a head coach in terms of your philosophy? I think that changes for every coach every year that they coach, but certainly you haven't done it a real long time in terms of being in the big seat. What kind of things are you learning about yourself as a head coach?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm constantly trying to figure that out, and I do have a great support group around me. A lot of basketball minds that I bounce ideas off of. Constantly asking questions, even at the collegiate level with some of my friends and colleagues. What I've learned is that every team is going to be different. Every single team is going to be different. You might think that going into the start of the year. But it's going to change, and you've got to really be open to those changes and open to what is going to be best for your team. And you got to be confident in yourself and making those changes and sticking with those changes. And that is one thing that has really stuck out in my mind this year as a first year boys head coach, making that transition from girls.
Coach, let's talk about some of your players before we wrap up. Riley Byron, Max McAllister, Ashton Smith, Davin Watkins, all names that Nolensville knew about coming into this year. Talk about their play.
Sure. Yeah, it's I was looking at stats earlier in the week, anyways, and I look at our district play numbers, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We've got 6 guys averaging over 7 points in district play right now. Davin's the only one that's averaging double figures. A couple of those guys are teetering right on the 10-point double figure mark. And then when you look at the entire year, we still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 7 guys that are averaging over 6 points on the year. So it really has been, any night could be that guy's night. Leading scorers, go up and down the line. It depends on the game. We've had a different leading scorer. And that kind of builds into kind of the philosophy that we've had this year is that, as we might not have a 20-point score like some other teams do, we're going to have to do it by committee, and you guys just got to accept that role. And, this guy might be rolling tonight, and we're going to have to get him the ball. So.
Coach, going into the final district game tonight against Marshall County, you're tied with Murfreesboro Central, both with 5-4 records. And depending on what happens with your game and also the Murfreesboro Central game with Community, looks like you're going to match up with Forest or Giles County. You swept both of those teams. Is that something you think about going into this one, or is it let's just take a look at tonight's game and that's the only thing we're thinking about?
As a coach, that's what I'm going to say. But I mean, every coach knows that it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year, to go 3-0 against a team. So, we're going to prepare like we always do. We're going to do what we have to do. We'll make sure the kids are ready to go, and we'll have our game plan ready. But the kids might not know it, but in the back of the coach's mind, you're always thinking about that. So,
Coach, I appreciate you being here. I know you're busy. First time on the coach's preview show. Looking forward to seeing how it goes in this postseason, and really looking forward to you moving over and playing in the 4A league next year, not 3A. It'll be 4A next year. It's going to be really exciting.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Really excited about that. Every game is going to be every game is going to be competitive. Every game is going to be within the hometown, within the the Williamson County. So it should be a lot of fun.
Coach, good luck tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for the Coach's Show. We'll see you next time.